Well, you probably heard in the news already, but Bloomberg has reported that Apple is delaying that revamped Siri once again. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been giving Apple the benefit of the doubt here when it comes to Apple Intelligence, but at this point, nearly 2 years delayed, what's going on here? So let's break down in this video why Siri is being delayed, what Apple's trying to actually do, what their end goal is for Apple Intelligence, and sound off in the comments what your gut reaction was when you found out about this delay, especially after finding out about the Apple and Gemini partnership. Let's talk about it. But now before we continue, if you do enjoy videos like this one where we cover all things Apple, consider subscribing to the channel and help us get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm sure just like you or most people, my initial gut reaction was a little bit of disappointment when it comes to Siri being delayed once again with the Siri 2.0 update. I really thought Apple turned a corner when they announced the Gemini and Apple partnership. I thought that was going to be the key to really kind of get this ball rolling and give us this form of Siri that Apple promised back at WWDC in 2024 now at this point. And then to give you a little bit of timeline and context as to what Apple Intelligence is, what the promise of Siri 2.0 was, they did bring it out at WWDC in 2024 alongside iOS 18 with a great marketing campaign and something that really made us want Apple Intelligence. Of course, they had those little features like the fun features, the image playgrounds, the Genmojis, all those little things, and also the proofreading and the grammar correction that came alongside Apple Intelligence. But the big one was the context awareness and this idea that there can be a built-in assistant in your phone that can actually do things and take action for you, as opposed to maybe just getting some information and then you taking that action upon yourself. I mean, Apple even made commercials with that exact feature taking place, which they now have taken down since then. And they talked about the iPhone 16 being built from the ground up alongside iOS 18 for Apple Intelligence. And it's kind of the first time Apple's ever done that, where they try to sell you on hardware before the software is ready to actually be used. So people ran out and bought iPhone 16s without actually having Apple Intelligence ready to go, which was kind of unfortunate. And over the next 18 months, Apple would slowly start to trickle in Apple Intelligence-like features. They would improve the UI of Siri. They kind of gave us all these more fun type of features. Again, the image playgrounds, but nothing really productivity focused like we wanted, and no chatbot or no really profound improvement to Siri. And then again, they had the Siri and Gemini announcement, and they mentioned that 26.4 was going to be the first time Apple's going to give us the new version of Siri 2.0. And that's where the news broke that it is now still delayed to this point, where it's probably going to be delayed into 26.5 and even further into iOS 27, with Apple slowly rolling this out little by little instead of giving us these kind of big features that we were hoping to get. So let's talk about what Apple promised with this new Siri 2.0. So first and foremost, they wanted to get rid of the fact that Siri was just going to be a voice command tool. They didn't want it just to be, hey, what's the weather? Hey, do this. They wanted to have a contextual AI assistant, and they wanted Siri to be able to do that. They wanted an app automation engine to be built into there, some personal data awareness as well, and then also a ChatGPT style kind of conversation that Siri could give you versus what Siri is now, which cannot have a conversation past one command. And Apple previewed these features. Again, they previewed it in their own little silo, but they previewed personal context understanding, they previewed on-screen awareness, the multi-step app commands, which is the app intent, so cross-app kind of interactions, which is something that even Samsung has had for the past year and a half. And those are all great features that we have wanted from Apple Intelligence and this new Siri 2.0, so that is what Apple promised, at least some version of that back in 2024. And now let's talk about why the Siri 2.0 has been delayed even further. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend and say that it's easy to build these AI models and to kind of restructure Siri from the ground up. And again, Apple's dealing with millions and millions and millions of pieces of hardware and users, and one of their biggest focuses is privacy. So again, at the end of the day, these AI models need a lot of user data, and they need to ingest that data to then take action upon that to learn who you are. So it kind of goes against what Apple has been pushing for a decade now at this point. But the biggest issues of the Siri revamp has been the reliability and performance. So I totally understand that Apple would not want to put a product out there that even has a small error rate, right? They want it to be perfect. They want it to work every single time. And Apple's known to do this. They're known to wait, especially on the hardware side. They're known to wait until the hardware has been perfected. This happened with USB-C. This happened with 120 Hz ProMotion. This happened with the OLED screen technology. This happened with 5G as well. So Apple's always been very slow to the game with hardware and even software. I mean, I remember it took like 4 generations for us to be able to actually update our wallpaper from iOS 1, or I believe it was called PhoneOS 1, to I think PhoneOS 2 or 3, where they finally allowed us to not only have a background wallpaper, but then also have multiple pages of applications, where the first gen didn't allow you to customize that at all. So that's just a little bit example of Apple needing things to be perfect before they actually bring it out and roll it out to people. So when it comes to that reliability and performance, Apple was saying that there were slow response rates, the query processing had a lot of failures, it struggled with complex requests as well, which is something that ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude are able to do already from their own little silos. And then sometimes it would fall back to ChatGPT as opposed to the Apple models that they were building from the ground up. And then again, this isn't just going to be a patch job of Siri. This isn't going to be just slap a couple new features onto Siri. They're basically deleting what Siri was and rebuilding it with Gemini as a foundation. And again, even though Siri hasn't been great, it has been around since I believe iOS 4 or maybe I think iOS 7. I can't exactly remember, but it's been around for almost 2 decades, and it's going to be hard to just remove something like that and then build it again from scratch. And then, like I mentioned earlier, privacy is such a focus for Apple. They've always leaned on it. This idea that everything is encrypted, your data is built into your iPhone, it's on device. And that just goes against every fact of what these Apple Intelligence and AI models are. They need your data in order to become good. They need your actions in order to become good. They need your language in order to be actually useful. So again, it goes against what Apple's always really pushed forward, which is privacy and your data being your data and nobody else's. And then one more tidbit that I wanted to add here in terms of just to contextualize how big of a change this is for Siri is that Apple's almost skipping a version of Siri or a generation of Siri that most AI models and assistants have given us. So Google Assistant is a great example of this. Of course, they were first on the Siri kind of time frame. It was just a quick answer. It was just a quick question and a quick answer. But then Google Assistant actually got very conversational, got a lot better as an assistant versus Siri did not improve. And Siri never had that kind of middle ground of being a conversational assistant. It could never take in context rules. It never really worked well outside of just a single command line or one action kind of iteration. So they're skipping that generation of it being conversational and just going into this full-blown AI do everything assistant, which I'm sure is a tough act to follow. So what does this mean for the end user, and what does the timeline or the new timeline of this Siri revamp look like? So 26.4 should still bring some updates and some relevant features to the new Siri, maybe some small Siri intelligence upgrades. We're also going to get a new web answer tool probably, as well as maybe some early personalization toggles in the settings, but nothing too crazy. And then middle of 2026, when iOS 26.5 does roll out, is when we should get a little bit more substantiation when it comes to this new Apple Intelligence and the Siri upgrade. So more app control improvements, early personal context features, as well as the preview style for the AI features, which Apple should bring out with iOS 27 alongside WWDC in June this year. That'll give us that true conversational Siri, it'll give us the OS-wide AI memory, as well as a deep app automation, which is what we've been wanting this Siri to be. I want to just be able to give Siri one command and it do everything for me, and then at the very end, I do one final check and I say, yes, get that done. So hopefully we'll get to that point at some point. So my personal prediction, like I said, in 2026 is going to be the foundation year for Siri. 2027 will be Siri's kind of coming out party, but the biggest thing for Apple here is that WWDC this year, they need to reset the framing of what Apple Intelligence is, and they need to tell people what's going on, because again, the iPhone 16 I think was the biggest downfall in terms of Apple saying it was built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, and it's giving Tesla vibes in terms of getting one of those 2018 Model 3s saying that it's ready equipped for full self-driving, it's got the right hardware, and then eventually full self-driving does come out supervised, and those 2018 Model 3s or even 2020 Model 3s are incapable of running that software because they're so old at this point. Apple's getting dangerously close to something like that where they promise that the software will work on certain iPhones, and it could be to the point where it's outdated and those iPhone 16s are going to be running some watered down version of this new Siri 2.0. And that is my biggest fear of what's going to happen with Apple. So again, sound off in the comments what you think. I'm again very curious to see how Apple mostly reframes this and makes sure it gives people peace of mind that this is the right move moving forward. And I hope that they do give us something to hold on to with the update with Apple and the Gemini partnership. Again, it's not a good look overall, but I do think if anybody's going to overcome this, it's going to be Apple. Again, I'm going to continue to sort of give them the benefit of the doubt, but albeit with a little bit of a pessimistic kind of view in the back of my mind. But that'll do it for this video. Let me know in the comment down below what you think. Are you upset? Are you annoyed? Do you not really care? Have you turned off all Apple Intelligence features? Are you not really even caring or looking forward to the new Siri? All things I want to know in the comments down below, and we'll discuss them down there. But if you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin. And if you guys want to watch more videos like this, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.